Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Mandatory Live. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because it helps the channel grow. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO. And if you have a couple of minutes and you also want to listen to this on the audio side, you can find us there too. You can always leave us a rate and review, give us a 5-star because that helps the channel grow as well. And we want to give a big shout out to everyone that is already joining us and will join us later. Remember to leave comments. It's an interactive show. So even if the show is done, drop your comments. We will see them. We don't get back to all of the comments, but I'm telling you right now, we do read them. And we are trying to get better at reading those comments. Of course, Brian, we both do a bunch of other things. But we do see everyone's comments, and sometimes we'll like just text about some people's comments and stuff and have a debate. But we love the comments, so keep them coming, especially for today's show.
Yeah, and today, it's not going to be an appreciably long one, but we got some things to talk about because one of the major stories in boxing, it seemingly has legs, Chantel. Like probably
Well,
more than legs. It seems like it's actually about to happen.
I don't know if I'm tripping because I'm taking a look at our caption because I can see what the captions are, you guys, before they come up at the bottom. And I'm hearing that Canelo Alvarez and Bud Crawford have reportedly agreed to a fight in September, but that it's going to be at Allegiant. Has it changed over to Dallas?
There's been talk. I saw both Dallas, Vegas, and until it's official, I don't think we're actually going to know.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing is that it seems to be happening. Notably, not in September, which also opens up the door for something else that's on the rundown that I'm not sure we're going to talk about it, but I'm not sure we're going to like it. But
Yeah.
it appears that Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford are going to fight in September.
Brian, we've been talking about this for a little minute, but it was kind of like one of those dream fights. And now we're about to get arguably one of the biggest fights of this generation, this decade, the previous couple of decades. Like, this could be the fight of the century because these two guys have been the best for how long? And I think what's really important, and we've talked about this in, our past show, what weight are they going to be fighting at? Of course, that hasn't been reported, but that might be the most interesting piece to this whole entire agreement because where they fight
Mhm.
is very important.
Yeah, it looks like it's Vegas per ring. There was smoke about it being in Cowboy Stadium also, which I think as an atmosphere would be a lot of fun. I think Canelo Alvarez is going to have like a little bit more of a home field advantage in either venue, regardless. And look, you're going up to Canelo Alvarez's weight, Terence Crawford. So, Canelo's the A side for this also. That's not to say I definitively think he's going to win the fight. We could talk about that. But yeah, this is going to happen. Um, the ring is saying Vegas. It's in place. The agreement is, but it doesn't appear that it's all signed, sealed, delivered. There's no like pre-fight presser or any of these things scheduled yet. And this is damn near 8 months in advance, 7 months in advance. So this is a long, long time. Which means, there could be warm-up bouts. It appears that Canelo Alvarez is going to take one because we know that for years he fights May, September, May, September. Terence Crawford, on the other hand, we know he fights once a year. So I'd be curious to see if he's going to take a tune-up between now and then in May. I would like to see that, but I'm not counting on it because Terence Crawford's Terence Crawford. But I think, let me know what you think about this. I think it'd be wise for him to take a tune-up bout because you're jumping up two weight classes. Maybe take one at middleweight beforehand or just straight to super middleweight, see how it feels, get accustomed to it first. Obviously, you wouldn't fight somebody elite in the weight class, but I would like to see Terence Crawford fight twice a year. He hasn't done that, though, since 2019, so I'm not counting on it.
Well, that's the thing that I'm most curious about. How many weight classes is Bud going to be jumping? Because he just fought his first fight at 154 pounds in the summertime. And now you're going to be fighting arguably one of the greatest fighters of this generation in Canelo Alvarez. And we know what Canelo has done in different weight classes, but at the same time, he would be the A side, Brian.
Mhm.
As much as we love Bud, Canelo's going to have the A side attached to his name. So that means he gets a little bit more, I don't want to say cachet, but he gets to play a little bit more in terms of that agreement. Now, this is something that was similar, if we want to give an example, when it was like Tank and Ryan. And Tank was like, yo, we're going to have like these, weight clauses up in here. Same type of deal. I don't think Canelo is going to be the one that's going to want to move down to a weight class when, he hasn't been fighting at that certain weight class. So it might be a catch weight. I think the most fair one would be 160. I don't see Canelo
I
coming down
don't.
to that, but maybe
I
like a
don't.
164, 163 catch weight.
I think they're doing a straight 168 because he's defending the titles. And
Yeah.
I don't think Canelo Alvarez, like, look, if I'm defending the titles, I'm not doing it at a catch weight. You're coming up to my weight class. Like, we've seen this already play out with him against Jermell Charlo. So, the reports are that it's super middleweight. And I just think Terence Crawford is going to go up 2 more weight classes, despite the fact that we've only seen him at 154 once.
And people were not like hella impressed with Madrimov, but even though I believe he won 8 rounds to 4, everyone kind of wanted that knockout. And there was that conversation, well, did his power transcend? Because at 147, he was knocking out everybody, stopping everybody. And you move up to 168, like this is crazy. And your first opponent is going to be Canelo Alvarez. So I would love to see Bud fight at a catch weight at maybe 163 or something like that to get prepared for Canelo, because he can't just jump up to, I mean, he probably
He
can. And
will.
yeah, he probably can. He's not scared, right? Because Bud, I do think he believes that he can beat anybody. But I
Hmm.
don't know if it's the smartest thing to do, right? Like, drop
Hmm.
your comments, guys. How do you feel about Bud jumping up 2 weight classes? And do you feel like he needs a fight before?
Here we go. Aryan Yuda. Hopefully, I got your name right. No, not really interested in Bud versus Canelo. Rather see Bud versus Bakram Murtazayev at 154 or 160. I think there are a lot of people who would disagree, although I get where you're coming from because, and we talked about this, I feel like leading up to this, Chantel, this is a fight that you've wanted to see more than I have because of the weight difference. That being said, if you give me Canelo Crawford, I'm going to cover the shit out of the fight and I'm going to talk about Canelo Crawford. Like, it's exciting to see it, but I just hope that I don't come away with the feeling like, oh man, that was a bummer and the size advantage was too much. Canelo Alvarez had said in the past, and I keep bringing this up because one, I was there for it, but two, like, it's an important sort of wrinkle into all of this. He said leading up to a potential fight with Terence Crawford, but this is before he was fighting Jermell Charlo. And he said that if he fought Terence Crawford, they wouldn't give him credit for beating a guy who's that much smaller than him, which eventually it was like, all right, he's probably going to fight him anyway because the money is going to be there. And if one dude in boxing is going to put up the money for it, we know it's going to be Turk. So like he's been trying to get, now you're Inoue down with Riyadh, and it looks like Inoue might fight in Saudi Arabia in December. And I know some people are going to have conflicting feelings about that. Well, Canelo Alvarez, he's wanted to get him down with Riyadh also. And while this fight is not going to be there, Canelo Alvarez, like they have some sort of, I don't know, sponsorship agreement or whatever the case may be. So Canelo Alvarez has said in the past, like, yeah, they're not going to give me credit for beating Terence Crawford. And look, they may not. Terence Crawford absolutely has everything to gain for doing
Yeah.
this because we throw around the term, hey, this guy's daring to be great or this woman's daring to be great in the sport. And on a basic fundamental level, you could say that about everybody who steps into the ring, just period, right? Just as a human being, you could say that. But in terms of the levels, Terence Crawford stepping into this and jumping up really 3 weight classes over the span of what, 2 years, and
Yeah,
and
it's
jumping
crazy.
up 2 more after a unspectacular win, 2 more to fight Canelo Alvarez. Like, this is daring to be great. This is also chasing the biggest bag possible. But if he wins this, like, we're talking about him being in like GOAT territory for a lot of people. I think a lot of people would come to that conclusion. They'll start calling him like one of the best ever. And some people are already doing that, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, I think that's kind of the most interesting factor of it, because at the same time, what's been the one knock on Canelo for, I guess you could say, the past year and a half? That he's ducking Benavidez, right? Say you fight Terrence Bud Crawford and you beat him, and say you do it distinctively, I think people would shut up about Canelo as well. And at the same time, Canelo could just sail off into the sunset because we're going to talk about this other fight that's been rumored just after, a little bit of a tease.
Yeah,
That
which in the comments there is a comment about that, and also
yeah,
I think Jesus would disagree with you about Canelo potentially getting credit for beating Terence Crawford.
yeah, and but at the same time, like it's a crazy win to have on your resume. I mean, Bud is arguably as well one of the best fighters of this generation. You could easily put him on pound for pound number one if you want to switch him, Usyk, and Inoue, like however you want to do it. But I think Canelo at the same time has something to gain from this as well, because it's like, yo, I didn't fight Benavidez, but I just fought one of the greatest fighters of this generation, and I beat him. He could say that. Now, as for Bud, everyone's going to say he's the greatest of all time if he beats Canelo. And if he does it in fashion, if you know what I mean. Because there's one thing that I noticed about Bud is him fighting at 147 and then getting into the ring with Spence. He made Spence look like the smaller guy. Bud looked massive in that fight. Bud looked big at 154. And I don't think he cares about fighting at 168. I think he's confident that he can beat Canelo. And this is a dream fight, Brian, that I thought would never come true. But it's going to happen reportedly. Let's get to some comments, Brian, before we move on to who Canelo may be fighting in May, Cinco de Mayo weekend, because that's even crazier, y'all. All right, let's get to our guy Jesus, and I'm not surprised with these comments.
Fake Canelo's like 5'5". I just checked; he's listed about 5'8". The interesting thing is Terence Crawford actually does have the reach advantage in this by a few inches,
Yeah,
74-inch
his
reach.
reach is crazy though. Like
Yeah,
people forget about Bud's reach. Jesus also said fake Canelo versus Crawford, maybe glorified sparring results draw. Don't hurt both. Win-win. You know what?
that's a conspiracy theory.
But here's the thing: if I'm Bud and I'm Canelo, like I want the second fight, and then I want a trilogy fight. Like they would make
Jeez.
so much money off of it, and they know that as well, right? And but the thing is, I don't think these guys are doing it for money. Like that's the thing; they're
I,
not
th-
doing
I,
this for money. This is a legacy fight, dude.
yeah, but also like I legitimately don't think Canelo Alvarez would do this unless there was a lot of money on the line.
Of course,
You
but
know, like
I wonder how much money it is though, because he wanted 200 M's for Benavidez.
yeah, and Turk seemingly has endless money. Arian again says Canelo, not even a Latino goat. That would be Roberto Duran or Carlos Monzon. A lot of people don't like Canelo, huh?
No, but you know what? I think it's the love and
I
hate thing.
can't
A lot
even.
of people didn't like Mayweather.
Yeah, I mean, like, am I at the liberty of saying you're wrong? I mean, Monzon and Roberto Duran especially were awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're listen. I have friends who are Mexican who are not going to put them ever ahead of Salvador Sanchez. So,
no.
like, and I get it. You know,
Like honestly, like I have people that love Chavez better too.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I don't even know if I put Canelo over Chavez, to be honest with you.
yeah. Honestly, I don't think that's crazy at all. Steven, do you guys think Bud's resume is good? All his wins age poorly. IMO. Um,
I think the Spence one is very good. I
no,
think
I think the
Sean
Sean Porter
Porter,
one. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that one
because
aged well because of Errol Spence barely being able to beat
it
Sean
was a draw. It
Porter.
was a draw. It was a draw.
Keith Thurman barely being able to beat Sean Porter. Sean Porter beating, yeah, like Danny Garcia. Like, no, I don't think it's
Bud's
good.
resume is solid. And you know what? It's the way he's doing it too. Like you can have wins on your resume and have names, but also if you're knocking out everybody and stopping everybody, I think that says something. Also, I know what people are going to say about Amir Khan, but remember Amir Khan was good at 140. I know he's got that glass chin, but that's still a name on the resume, very well respected in the UK. And I never give the UK props, but you know what I mean? Like let's be serious here, though. He had his run, and I think there's definitely names on Bud Crawford's resume, even Madrimov. Like that's a
Madrimov
good
was fine.
name.
Errol Spence, I think. I mean, that's the one, and people with hindsight have diminished it. But going into it, I mean, Errol Spence for some people was the favorite. A lot of people I know were betting on him. Like it was legitimately 50-50 going in. It's just he destroyed him, and Errol Spence just we haven't seen him since. And then if you wanna pick apart like Kell Brook, who was past it, David Avanesian, which was on fucking BLK Prime. So I'm
Yo, he
sure like
retired Kelbrook. We never saw Kelbrook again, and we know
I
he had
think
that eye
no,
injury.
he fought Khan after, I think, which I
Oh
think
yeah, and
that
then he beat Khan, and then
yeah.
okay, but that no one cared about that fight at that time
I think that
because
yeah. I mean
that
people in the
fight
UK did, but like it should have happened Honestly, that should have happened in 2015, 16.
Let's go over to
Not
this
joking.
comment because
UK's
Daniel
got all the
Dubois
top
is not from
heavyweights
the
now.
UK, but this is a nice comment because
Where's
yeah, I
Daniel
guess
Dubois
Tyson
from?
Fury.
Oh, I know. I
He
see what you're saying.
he's not from the UK though. But you'd have to put him up there, right? But yeah, that makes sense. Actually, this is a real comment because you
What do you
got
mean he's not from the UK? I'm sure he is. Are you saying like his roots? Like his
yeah,
roots
like
roots?
his
Yeah.
roots.
I
Like
know, but he's from the UK. Like
okay, but okay, whatever.
I didn't
Okay,
try to say. I wouldn't say they have all the top heavyweights now. Because like I mean, Tyson Fury retired, air
but you
quotes.
still have to kind of count him, right? Because
Do
we
you?
don't even know
He says he retired. Anthony Joshua. I mean, we'll see what happens there. But
Usyk.
it's really like Wardley and Moses Itama, which we need to see more from both of them.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get over to Steven. He says Porter said he went into the fight planning to retire. Spence was clearly damaged goods. His face did not look normal by the third round. The thing with Sean Porter is Sean Porter, he was always one of my favorite fighters because he made every fight interesting and he was very skilled. But I always go back to that Spence fight and I thought it was a draw. That's how I had scored it. So when Sean Porter came into the ring and fought Bud, I still thought he fought his ass off in that fight. Like that's a thing. So I mean, this is a good comment though, Steven. I mean, you make a good point because we didn't see him fight after, but yeah, nonetheless, like I think I like Bud's resume. You guys in the comments, let us know what you think about Bud Crawford's resume. Who you think the biggest names are? We will take a look at that.
How the pal says and Fury got beat by Francis. Uh, don't agree with that one, but I mean there are people who think that. And in terms of like just looking at odds, Terence
Yeah,
Crawford moved into being like a slight favorite over Errol Spence, but I know a lot of people who were betting on Errol Spence to win that fight.
yeah,
He right now, I'm looking at some odds. Canelo Alvarez listed early, plus or sorry, minus 230 to win this. Not surprising. Terence Crawford plus 184. The funny thing was, you mentioned Amir Khan, and it closed at Terence Crawford being like minus 1500. I'm seeing that it opened 50-50, which is kind of ridiculous even for that time. Like, I know Amir Khan had like, he had his moments, but by 2019, I don't think this should have been 50-50, which it didn't end that way. And the ones against Sean Porter were surprisingly very one sided, but he beat Sean Porter better than everybody else. And if you just sort of go through it, yeah, he's been favored for the majority of these, but like a lot of the great ones are. But I think like the Victor Posto win is a legit win. He
yes,
unified against Julius and Dongo. Like I liked Felix Diaz. I thought he was going to be better than he was, and Terence Crawford pretty much destroyed him. Like there are some legitimate wins there. I do agree. Like I wish he's fought like Danny Garcia at that time, for example. Like just Keith Thurman, like better competition, better welterweights. But looking back on it, he probably would have beaten all of them. So
100%. And also, it's like the business of it too. And we know the boxing business and politics always get in the way. So sometimes I feel like it's not necessarily the boxer's fault, but it could be their promoter. Let's get to some more
or
comments
the
here.
other boxer's promoter
Yes, of
because
course.
it was PBC and Top Rank weren't, they weren't like working hand in hand like, Nico Harrison and Rob Palenka. I
Yeah.
still can't believe that trade happened.
Al
Yeah,
the Pal
so
says, "What up? Thanks for joining us on the show, Al the Pal, good friend of the show. Did you have any final thoughts, Brian?
donations get read automatically and we stop what we're doing. So do that to the channel. I'm surprised you put that one up
Hey,
there.
man, we got to read everything. All right. If you're joining us on this late night live, we rock with you and we're going to read the comments. Al the Pal says Canelo is explicitive. Says David, 25 pounds more. But what are you going to bring against Crawford? Got Crawford by 12 rounds, but that Canelo, oh, I see what you did there. Canelo, he might get
Jesus did the same
robbed.
thing. Yeah.